Yo, what's up, Big Smoka? Yeah, I cut the all the hair off and the beard, man. It was just honestly, it was like I just felt like it made me slower. Like the way you have to turn your head, like seriously, it makes such a difference. Like turning your head, the way you turn your head, like how you eat food, how you drive, how you shower. And I just got sick of it, man. I was just like, all right, like this is enough. Like I thought it looked cool for a minute and was like somewhat of my personality was definitely imbued in that, but I just like being more like streamlined, like physically almost. But seriously, it was just like such a hassle, and it was like I couldn't really do it in styles. It was like the only style I could do is like wet it down and have it just fall down, or put it in a ponytail. And I was just like, I was just like, I felt like I was just looking lazy and like looking like a bum, so I just cut it off. Hello? What's up? I just started another character, tried to figure out how to go through the first campaign. Because you go through just Diablo 4 is like the first campaign, not the expansion. You have to select. I figured out you have to, like, on the screen where you create the character, you can select whether or not to start in the or in the expansion or the original. Or what, you know what I mean? So I just first, yeah, that's what I was. I don't know how long it takes or anything like that. I literally have know nothing about it. I just was like, oh, people know stuff that I don't know, like Cody and that guy Tom and you guys, you and Alex. I'm just like kind of. I understand the game mechanics, you know, but I don't. But you guys are like, oh, this is the first boss, and you go over here to this tree and grab all this stuff. And I'm like, okay, like I can do that, but I have no backstory as to where any of that comes from, or like I have no map, like greater map awareness of different places, or it's just like, oh, all the places are open. Over here is like kind of the desert. Over here is like the hellscape. It's kind of like yeah, it's kind of like Skyrim. This the map, the way the map is laid out. It's like everything's contained in one place. But you want to play right now? That's fine. I've already done like, yeah, sure. I'll jump. What level is your? Oh, 33. Sure, I can run with this guy with you. That's fine. How do I get to where you are? Do I have to go to the main Kiowa shot to find your portal? All right, I'll just run up there really quick. Yeah, well, I mean, okay, yeah. Sorry. Oh man, the visuals are intense. I'm like, especially kind of coming from where I'm coming from. It's like, man, it's like the the madhouse. It's like people really do this stuff. If you like, I don't know, in my expert, no, no, just like all the crazy writings and stuff like that, like and like believe. Well, I like got into the place and it was like this lady was like writing like all these like things with her blood. I'm like, I've been there. There's like there's people in those places. It's like all these places are different, but they house like certain weird. Like you really want to know where all the weird people are in the world. Like there are a lot of like weird, creepy, creative. They're kind of creative too. Some in some extent, like the stuff they do is kind of cool. A lot of them, dude. There are a lot that are like in all these loony bins all around the world. Yeah, and some of them write like I read some people's writings and it's like they come up with like really crazy stuff, dude, and it's like holy shit, like how'd you even think of this? But it's like seriously just insane, you know? But I mean, they're there and they exist. And so I don't know, it's yeah. Yeah, it's kind of like that, but I mean and the thing is they share it with like their doctors and stuff like and the crazy part is, you want to know what? Like a lot of those doctors kind of like, dude, it's such a weird world. A lot of the doctors kind of like enable the behavior cuz they think it's like super interesting, if that makes sense, cuz they're just like weird, they're just like weirdo fucks that like it's like not them, but it's like, oh, this guy's like seeing things, or this guy's like hearing voices. Like, what are the voices he's hearing? And they like think it's like interesting, or he has visions. Like some lady, dude. I went to see some lady one time, and she was like, she was obsessed. She was like, so you've been diagnosed with this? Do you see visions? What do you see? Like, what do you see in the visions? I was like, holy cow, lady. I was like, I'm not seeing anything. She was like wanting, yeah, she was like wanting me to see something. I was like, I don't know, my whole thing to everybody was just like, what, you don't have a conscience, you don't like speak to yourself in your head kind of thing, or like when you read a book you don't hear voices. I always played that card. Yeah, yeah, exactly. I was like hearing voices. I was like, what are, like, can you describe, like, you don't have exactly an inner whatever. um or like seeing things. I would always tell people, I was like, you really want to see things, like go watch a movie or play a game, play a video game or something. I would always say shit like that. But I don't know. I don't know if it kind of pissed them off, but honestly, I feel like a lot of them did try and enable like the craziness. Like, yeah, like one guy was like, I started drawing all this Star Wars stuff because people's mind, dude, this is it's such like a weird world. People's minds in those places are very like elastic, which means they hold on to anything emotional, like something that has like great emotion to it. It can like draw everybody's attention away from stuff. So like I started drawing a bunch of Star Wars stuff in one place because I was like lightsabers and things like that. And I would like turn it in. I'd be like, here's what I did today. I drew like this lightsaber, and I like took a lot of time on it, made sure it had like details and stuff. Because if you can get into like the group place and like influence everybody, because dude, it's such a weird place. You have to interact with all these people, and like everybody's like super emotional, and it affects your stay there, like the emotional state of everybody else. Like everybody's kind of like in that place together. And so I would like I would do shit like draw like lightsabers to try and like steer the conversation towards like Star Wars, because it's like then it's something everybody has like something to say about. Even the physicians are like, yeah, 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 exactly. Even the physicians there are like, oh, there's good and bad. And it's like, you know what I mean? Like lightsabers. Like, what do I think about that? It's like something that's relevant to everybody. So I would always try and do something like that. But yeah, dude, I don't know. It's kind of intense watching this stuff because it's like that first scene was like I follow Nayrel and go down with her to like, uh, she's like riding shit with her blood. Yeah. No, it was like Nayrel. We killed her mom. We like went and killed her mom down in this dungeon in one of these towns. Oh, well, all my I guess kind of like with my sorcerer that I have. Yeah, well, Mephisto's like speaking to me like in that wolf character or whatever. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. But I was just like watching that. I was like, I know people that write shit like this and like draw designs like this all over the place with their with you know what I mean? Like I mean, in most cases, I'll tell you, people would do it with like their own shit before they do it with blood. But if that makes sense, like people will write with their shit. Yeah, but it's like the it's just like a spirit of things. Like whether it's like a spirit of craziness, if that makes sense. Like it's like they definitely can make it hard. Like sure, I would just say people like that can make it hard for people around them, if that makes sense. So it's like people like that can make like the world hard for people around them, and there's different kinds of hardness of like whatever the fuck they're doing. So they can make it difficult for everybody around them with like all these weird with all the weird shit they're doing for whatever it makes sense in their head, you know what I mean? But I mean they're playing the demon basically. Oh yeah, oh yeah, right. I actually wrote a whole paper where it was like I could share with you if you want, but I'm like trying not to share tons of stuff with people because it's like I feel like personal stuff like that is kind of not the best to share with people because I don't know. There's a sense of like don't share crazy things with people, but even just sharing too much of your own like personal stuff with people is like, oh, that's personal. It's probably just as bad. Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah, if you want a paper, or it's like I did reduce life down into the essence of a game, basically, and I tried to like capture the observer. So it was like the kind of like this perspective of like playing Diablo. It was like it's like the observer is there in third person, but there's a connection between the character and the observer. I like tried to write it out, but because it kind of made sense to me, like how there's always like some light in the darkness or something like that. Yeah, exactly. In the middle of it. So it's like where reality is, like outside of that, there's a perspective of observation. But yeah, no, it's kind of intense because I literally am just getting out of that insane asylum. Like I was just there like 6 months ago. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh fuck. Yeah. Well, yeah, I just know what not to do, kind of thing, if that makes sense. Like a lot of it is just like I know not what to say and where not to say it. Just like there's a time and place. As you said, there, it depends on the audience, right? So it's just like, yeah, there's a time and place, and like if I want to draw something, then make sure that I'm fucking in the right place to do that. And I don't know. I've just tried. I was in a state of denial more than anything. Like this last time I went, I I think there was other things that were wrong in the other like the other previous times I went, right? But this time, I think it was like a state of denial where it was like I just didn't believe the world. It was like I didn't believe the world, and so I didn't want to participate. If that makes sense. Like I was like, oh, this is yeah, sure. It's like all futile, like all futile, sure. And it was like all futile, and it was like the only the only thing you can ever connect with is yourself. And it was so it was like I was just like I'm the only thing that I can connect with, so I just stopped trying to connect with anything else, sort of. Which you know what I mean, like just led me to a place. Obviously, the way to really do life is just like as they say, kind of like be in the middle of all things. You know what I mean, or add a little salt, take everything with a grain of salt kind of thing. Like, sure, to a certain extent, you're the only one who can get certain things about yourself. Sure, to a certain extent, like, life is a battle of good over evil. Sure, to a certain extent, like, wealth is something which is a perception of like, your perception of reality. You know what I mean? Like that. So it's just like, sure, to an extent. Add that before every statement that has, like, a severity to it within regards to like how you act or perceive the world. And I had just taken it to the extreme. I was just like, no, I'm not gonna work for like and have my life just be something where it's like I'm just doing something I hate, and like I definitely took it to the like I took that to the extreme. I was just like to be rich, you just have to act rich. Like I was there, man. Like I was just like this is are you riding away on your horse? All right. Yeah, so I had taken that to the extreme of just like, yeah, if I want to be rich, the closest thing to richness is like be is creativity. So I just thought every single day if I did something creative that was like as close to being like original as I could be, I was close to like the wealth of creation, which was like in my head the wealthiest thing there was because it held the art of like consciousness. The only and so in my head it was like anything that drugged me away from consciousness um, was a lie because that was like I had to play the game of everybody else in this world, and in that game I could lose because it it was like giving it up to factors that were outside of my control, like where I was born, what what are my like characteristics that I was born with, kind of thing. If I was close to this creation that I was like trying to be original every day, just like doing artwork or like arts and crafts kind of stuff. If I was like close to that, then I wasn't falling into um, the circumstances that I was born into, if that makes sense. Yeah, so it just was like if I did that, I wasn't. It was like chance. I was eliminating chance, and so the only thing that could perceive wealth was my ability to just do things that were original. And I'll tell you what it leads to. It leads to like writing stuff like that, where it's like every single thing that you try to write is something that has like never been said before, or every single character or stroke that you write on a piece of paper is like an image you've never seen before, and so nobody can say anything about it. So it doesn't fall into the paradigm of like um, having to follow the like what everybody thinks because it has no history to it. So it just leads to like weird designs and like weird writings and like weird little alphabetical characters. Dude, I had papers full of stuff that I sent to my uncles who went to Japan, and they're like, "It looks Japanese, but I can't read it." And I totally fooled them, dude. Like it was like pretty. Because my dad saw some of my stuff, and he's like, "This looks like Asian stuff." And I was like, "It's kind of cool, huh?" And I was like, "All I'm really doing," I told my dad, I was like, "All I'm really doing is trying to every single like alphabetical character you see, I'm trying to draw it in a way that's um, unique." So you can't relate it to anything you've seen before. And I just had pages of stuff like that. And my dad was like, "You should send this to my brother." He really told me to do that. He's like, "Send it to my brother in a letter because this is interesting." And I was like, "Okay." So I sent it to my uncle, dude, because my dad told me to. This is kind of the start. Like that was just the start of all of it. And my uncle, yeah, but that was like I'm just saying like this was like 2 years ago when I like was doing that writing. So like but when I got admitted was like 6 months ago. But when I started doing that writing, it was like 2 years ago. My dad was like, "Oh, this is actually interesting." And my dad and mom, they even told me after I got out, they were like, a lot of that stuff you did was kind of interesting. I'm like, I know, I'm sorry. Um, you know what I mean? Like they're like a lot of it was. I was like, I made like a bunch of weird jewelry that was like all gothic and in the shop and stuff like that, and some of the paintings. I had some people on Reddit. They were like, "I want this." I sent one of my drawings all the way to England because some guy in England was like, "I just love this." I was like, "All right." No, I just sent it to him. He didn't pay me for it. I was just like, "That's cool." I was like, "That's cool." And if you want it, it was only like $20 to send it to him. I was like, "All right." Did have somebody buy some of my stuff, but they were someone in my family. They're like, "Yeah." They're like, "This is cool. I want this." Yeah. Yeah. Um, my big thing now is like I've recorded it all on my YouTube channel. It was just like, and I can listen now, if that makes sense. So it's like I went through that process, and it's like I don't feel like I need to prove anything anymore. And so now I can just listen. It's like taking me a little bit of time to like kind of get back to where I can just absorb information without having to try to give my own critique about it. It's like I can actually just experience the world kind of and people and their characters and stuff like that. But yeah, exactly. Not feel like I have to like say anything about everything or whatever. I don't know, and it's like I'll tell you what, you're a lot more safe if you put all your stuff in a digital realm rather than the physical because the amount of mess that you make for people around you is just like I said. All those people in those insane asylums, maybe they're not like drawing for demons. I mean, they can draw them on paper, and sometimes they're pretty hard to look at. because it's like pretty intense, but like you're having to deal with them. And so the messes that you make in this world are totally real. Like the amount of like messes that I was making that just got in other people's way, it was like, okay, eventually at some point in time I was something that people around me had to deal with. And so it's just like I've figured out by trial and error, like if you really want to like experiment with that stuff, it's just better to like put it in the digital realm because then it's the amount of mess and like the way that you store the information is just out of everybody's way, like much more. It's like, oh, it's there. I got my ideas out there, and it's like they're there for anything that actually does ever connect with them. So I don't have to like prove it to people here. And if anybody ever is like leaning towards any of that stuff that I was like, you know, heading towards, then it's there. But it's definitely in a way that's like a lot less forced towards anybody's, and it's like a way that doesn't make my character something which is like always throwing things at people. It's like the stuff's there. So I just have found out that it's a lot smarter if I want to do stuff like that, just put it on YouTube and just don't and like just leave it there. I don't know. Maybe that's a process that you have to everyone has to go through if they kind of go down a road like mine, where it's like you don't. Yeah, yeah. I mean, sure, it's definitely a different thing. I just feel like it's more safe. Like if you're really trying to like explore like thinking different ways, the basic thing of it is just thinking differently. If you really want to try and think differently, probably the safest place to do it is in the digital world. Like, but I will say that yeah, it does hold like a different air to it. It's like it's different than me making like a black cross out of obsidian and like giving it and like saying like, where can I really put this that actually makes a difference in the world? Which would be like when before I got admitted, which would be like go to the jeweler and say like, hey, like look, check out this black cross that I ground with obsidian. I was like, I've never seen anything like before, and give it to like the the merchant there, and that's shit that I did. And so it's definitely different, but it's like, okay, like if I want to stay out of the loony bin, then I probably shouldn't do shit like that. You know what I mean? So yeah, it's like, and it's something I made. You know what I mean? Like during these last like 2 or 3 years when I was just like making all the shit like that club that I fucking made for you. You know what I mean? Like it's like obsidian stone, like cemented in this like wooden battle axe hammer thing. But so yeah, it's just yeah. Yeah, and that's you want to know what that is, dude? That's like pure manifestation of craziness. Like it's when you're drawing like that, like when I was drawing like all the like filigree green paint like all over it, it's like it almost is like you're following like some spirit of drawing. It's like you don't think about it if that makes sense, okay? Maybe the most basic way to put it is you don't think. You just feel it out exactly how it's like all those lines are going to go and you just do it. So you don't actually sit there and like think, "Oh, I'm going to do this." It's just like you just like draw it out. It at least the first time you draw it anywhere. Maybe you have a plan sometime like before you draw things out, but that initial thing when you do it is just like you're kind of like a little bit not thinking. Just put it basically, you're not thinking. I probably don't have to say any more than that. Like yeah, when you do that, you're like not thinking that much. Hello? Can you hear me now? No, I have a headset. You can turn me up on Discord if you right click on my name or whatever. Increase my volume. See, that's another thing I was doing too. I was making relations of like wordplay. So it was like, you know what I mean? Like everything had to be like some sense of like making connections, and I could like understand the words more if I like played with them. So it was like like fucking around with words, and it got to the point where I was like doing it in language with people, like just like straight up conversation. Like really, my if I'm being realistic and going back to like you're saying like there's some wealth there, like it's probably in like if I really do have like some audience now on YouTube. It's just like I need to like right now it's like I've been streaming and there's hasn't been any time where there's been zero people watching. There's always been somebody. Some of you even came on and they're like, "Hey, you look way different with the beard cut off and stuff. Such what a transformation." So, yeah, but anyways, when this all started, like I said, hello. Okay. Yeah, my dad was like, "Send this to my brother," because like I said, I was just like, "Okay." And my uncle got back to me. He's like, "This is weird." He's like, "I'm trying to read it because it looks like Japanese or Chinese." And he's like, "But I can't." And I was like, "Yeah, that's just because I tried to make every character something that like every little angle on this on the little characters like the alphabet just went to a different direction than you've never seen before." And I did that with like whole pages of stuff. And he was like, "This is weird." Yeah, it's like a new language of some kind. I don't know. It's just like, so I started thinking like maybe that's what like foreignness actually is. Like I had like wandered into a state of where it was just like pure alienness, kind of. Because you could probably say it looked Japanese as much as you could say it looks alien or something. But it's just like a state of like, wait. And what I thought was amazing about it is like, oh, there's only like four lines, but it it like doesn't mean anything. It's like how can something that's like so simple have never been done before? It's like making a new recipe in the kitchen and being like, how come no one's ever made this before? But it's like so basic, is what I thought was cool about it. But yeah, I don't know. There were obviously issues, you know. So my whole thing is like, I just have to be realistic. Like I said, the biggest problem was that I was in a state of denial, which means that I thought the only place you could ever be wealthy was like in denying everything and just only believing in yourself. And it was like everything is lying to you. It's like if because why would I ever give the idea that I go into a world with chance so that I have to live a life that I don't want to live? And it was like I wasn't willing to accept that. I wasn't willing to accept that life had chance, basically. And so I started denying everything, and I made up my own story of like, okay, well, if everything's a lie, then what is wealth? And it was like it's like wealth is a state of perception of being close to creativity because that's where everything comes from. And I like had written papers on how it's like you can basically create, like, let me try to put this into words that are understandable. It was like the value system that everybody has, okay, like this value system that everyone has, you can sort of destroy that, the economy, if you do something that is really creative, because you can make something that's super cheap basically have value if you're creative enough with it. And so it was just like, oh, these people that are wealthy in this world aren't really creative. They basically have no soul, was what I just thought. I was like, oh, they have no soul because it's like to them, it's like wealth is just the idea of permanence. But to me, wealth was the idea of change. It was the idea of being able to create. And so I could create things that were very simple that had like a lot of meaning, which I thought sort of destroyed the economics of like this has value, this has value, this has value. Because I could create something that had a lot of value, at least in my head. And I have to say that part. Like I could create something with a lot of value, at least in my head. And so all value really was in the world was nostalgia, which means that value was personal. So what was valuable to you isn't valuable to what everyone is what's valuable to everyone else, basically. Which is a thing that people say, right? To an extent. Yeah. Yeah, unless you tried to create nostalgia that was like futuristic, if that makes sense. Like sure. So the only so then in a sort of way you kind of cement, I don't know if you want to watch this or not without me. We already did this part actually. I remember it with you yesterday. Yeah. Um so if it's in the past, you can be confident about it. And it was like, yeah, I was like, basically, yeah, don't let the moment like make a fool out of you. Don't get caught up in the moment, otherwise you're gonna have to play everyone else's games. And if you hold on to like these basic values of eternity, which is like the past, sure, there's no future. If you want to look at it like that, there is no future, so you understand everything. Then you don't have to like play these games of everyone else and value isn't what the world tells you what value is. Like you can create value just on a whim. And it's like you don't have to play like, oh, gold is valuable or like silver or like any of the stuff that the world says is valuable. You can create what your own sense of value is. And so in that sense, yeah, but I had believed like then you mix that, you say it's value to you, but then you have to if you want to understand where I was, it was like you say that that's good to say if you want to like um obviously not cause problems in your reality. Like I said, any sort of belief that you have which affects the world, probably say like sure to an extent, you know. But like where I was, it was just like okay, I had all these writings too that I had done basically, and it was like if just to put it blankly without trying to prove it, um, it was those people. Like let's say that people have value in the world. I'll this probably will make it make sense how I saw it. Just like all these people that had value in the world, they didn't think for themselves, is what it was. Basically, just without me getting too much into it. It's just like all these people that like get caught up in saying like the world has an accurate depiction of wealth and you're not already wealthy was just like they couldn't think for themselves. Like they can't do these creative things. It was literally like they have no free will. And so all I said was just like, okay, if you want to have free will, then you'll be rich to yourself, but you probably like sure the I guess the most perfect example is if you could be wealthy yourself and express these things. But it was just like these most of these people in the world that have like they're extremely wealthy that they actually represent like they don't have free will or they're just they're unable to like do things that are creative. And so it's just like they're people who can't actually think. So they're kind of like not really um and so it's just like I didn't want to it was like me letting go of creativity. The more I believed in that, the more I would have to let go of my own ability to create myself. And that's being the more that you believe in the world. So it's just like the more you believe in the world, the less you believe in your own ability to create your own circumstance. So that leads to a state where you just deny everyone else. But that I'm just saying, like where you said, like sure that's value to you, but not everyone else. Where I had went was just like, if it is value to everyone else, then it's in a state of doesn't have creativity because they have no creativity. So it's a value system set up by popularity. And so it was just like I don't have to believe in what anyone else thinks is valuable, and it was and like the way I would prove it is I would just say they can't, like in their daily life they don't do anything that's new or creative, which means that it's like false. They're not actually really they're just not they're just not like basically living. I'm just saying that's where I was. Yeah, like I can see it both ways too. I'm just saying that's where I was. I don't know what to do with my next skill of my necromancer, so I'm just upgrading my skeletons um attack and defense. All right, yeah, I'll just teleport you. Even talking about this is just like I've tried to like just push it all under the rug. You know what I mean? Just be like, forget about it. Like I already said it once. I don't need to say it again. Like on my YouTube channel, it's just like I can live in a world where other people believe things that I don't, and even if it just leads to me just dying and not achieving anything, at least I feel like I set it up. Because I've had all these conversations, like the one I'm having with you, on my channel. So it's like I have the conversation there, and I'm just like, you know what? YouTube is probably going to be something as long as I don't fuck up my channel somehow and doesn't get deleted. It's going to be there like indefinitely, so I don't have to try and prove anything to anybody about this stuff. It's like there. So I can just live in a world where people believe in Joseph Smith and whatever the fuck else, and I don't give a shit, and I'll just like I won't say anything about it, you know? What? Yeah, I know, right? I don't know. People, I have like I read the Book of Mormon. In all honesty, I'm just like it's not my favorite book. Like if I wanted to tell people like that we're in the LDS faith, just like you know what I mean. Mark Twain even read it. Mark Twain came and visited Utah because he was interested in like how this guy had like created a church just off of this book that he wrote, and he was like, this is what Mark Twain said. He said, I have never read something more drafting in my entire life that leads towards like sleepiness and a numbness of the brain. And he said, it's surely a miracle that this boy could have written this that way. But see, the thing is that I don't believe it. Like, to me, it's not that crazy that some 16-year-old like wrote some book. Maybe there is a little bit. I kind of have my own conspiracy theory that it's just like there's other people behind it that wanted to like have some control and set up like their own state, and so they just like wrote this book that has a lot of shit in it. Because anyways, Mark Twain says it's kind of interesting that he like was able to write this like weird ass fucking book as like a 16-year-old or whatever. But I kind of just there's I have two beliefs about that. It's just like first off, I personally have written like a shitload of books. Like and like I've just put them all over the world. I was just like fuck, what do I do with this now? I wrote a whole book. What the fuck do I do with it? So I started putting them in those like take a book, leave a book things or whatever. It's like someone wants to fucking read this, they can. So who knows? Maybe somewhere around the world, someone's coming across like weird ass writings. They like took a book out of those. Yeah, exactly. Took a book out of those. Take a book, leave a book things. But I don't know. In my opinion, it's not my favorite book. Like if I was to like, Yeah, and I can tell you from I've read that and the Bible. Even the Bible's not my favorite book. Like seriously, like if I have to tell people that are like super Bible thumpers, like guess what? I've read it and it's not enjoyable. Yeah, like it's not a good book. No, yeah, like it's just isn't. It just isn't a good book. Like it's not a good book for reading, and it like doesn't put things in a way that like it's really weird and like really cryptic. Like it is sort of like like actually to an extent like if you read that and believe in it, like cuz I've done that. Like that's why I kind of went on my mission or whatever. I was just like, fuck, okay. Like if you read that and believe in it like full-heartedly, like that is crazy. Like that literally is just pure craziness. But even in all the books I've read, like no, the Bible's not my favorite book. Like if I have to say what my favorite verses are in the Bible, it's probably like Isaiah because it is just like fucking weird and crazy. It's just like if you take your like like weird ass writings like just like oh the sun in the sky is the great eye that overlooks and watches from beyond. And if you take a principle of yourself and like put it on a pedestal, then you'll have the riches of God and like it's just like weird as shit and stuff like that is like that's what like Isaiah is like. It's like seriously like some weird Diablo writings. Like it's obviously where they get this game from kind of is like just weird shit like that. So it's like yeah, the writings of Isaiah are kind of interesting because it is like poetry that's like weird and cryptic, like all this stuff. But yeah, the Book of Mormon's definitely not my favorite book. And if I was to like formulate like like a I don't know, like a group of people, how whatever that leads into, I don't think it would be the Book of Mormon that I like founded it upon or whatever. Yeah, and yeah, I just can't. There's just some part of me that's just like I can't. It's just like you guys really believe that like this author of reality has set up such like a trial for you of faith that like everybody who's like a scholar who reads the book like says that there's like inaccuracies of it that like of certain things that is just like you think that the devil or God is like trying to lead people astray that much like what can you even trust in this world anyways then it's just like hard for me to fathom like what other trickery does is God doing then if like he literally is creating like 6 billion people against you or whatever that is like you really believe that God is like making cuz a lot of people have read the book that aren't LDS like you know what I mean like a lot of people have and it's just like what like why don't they find any of this stuff like in the Bible at least they find like certain cities like Babylon and stuff like that but in the Bible no it's like this isn't like Mayan stuff. It's not Egyptian stuff. Like your little hieroglyphs are interpreted wrong, and like you really think that like Satan is like making it so they can't find any proof of any of these writings? No, I can't believe that, dude. I really can't believe that it's like God is like such a character to like make it life so like such a lie that you can't believe anything that you just have to like say I'm gonna live by fucking pure like denial of what everyone else thinks. Now, to an extent, I have lived that in my own way, but not necessarily like the LDS way. But yeah, well, if there is, it'll be from my YouTube channel. It'll be in like because I've tried to make it like based off of like science, basically, my perception of God, like what evidence there is of like um, immortality in something that's like an infinite point. I think Einstein's equation is probably the best place to start. It's like E equals mc squared. As soon as you go to the speed of light, which is like God, your mass becomes infinite, which means that you've never actually moved. So it's like God is like infinite, which means that he's never actually moved, which means in that point of the Big Bang, he's known everything, right? And so it's like at the same point in time, God is everything. He's never actually moved from his place because that's like his mass is infinite, which is like the speed of light. And so I'm just like, that's God. So what I've said that God is basically based off of like stuff like that. And so it's like it's a religion for the future if there ever was one, but you know, it wouldn't be by it wouldn't be by me turning it into a religion. It would be by like people fucking seeing my YouTube channel in like 1,000 years or like 100 years or something like that. I don't know. There's probably just as much shit that I've done that's as much as it could make sense. It probably couldn't make sense. It doesn't make sense at the same time, you know. So whatever. But because there is kind of a fallacy of like trying to like I think one of the bases of religion is like trying to imbue emotion into everything, but there is like a spirit of like things are emotionless and there is actually nothing there kind of thing. It's like hard to understand when you're actually not being biased towards emotion in this world and you're just writing something based upon your own biases like you said like when you had that perception before you're like yeah of course value but according to like other people's things. And I would just say maybe the reason why I went to that state is because you know I was in a bad place. And so that's obviously like how personal you relate like this sense of denial to the world is probably can be traced back to how like in a bad position you see yourself in, which is obviously you have a bias about it. So it's like how can you not be biased about these things? I'm gonna be right back. I'm gonna go eat like breakfast really quick, but I'll just leave my guy here and I'll. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Are you there right now? Should I go through your portal? Okay. I was just riding off in the distance while I was talking, but yeah, dude, I was like, I was like so gone. I went and tried to like jump on a horse and the fucking wild. Like, did I ever tell you that? Yeah, I was like, I'm just gonna go ride a fucking horse, dude. And I was like, I didn't care about anything. And so I just went and like tried to jump on some horse, some horse out in some field that I saw. Like, but it like kicked me off though. Anyways, I think the biggest thing is I got it out of my system, and it's like I said what it's like I have to say, and like I'm ready to die on that hill. If that makes sense. Just like it, I did as much as I could to like try to like have things make sense in like the most normal and fantastic way possible. So it's just like I've done that, and it's like I tried to do things because great things are done by simple things, right? So it's like building a rocket ship at some point in time relates to just like building something very simple, right? If one plus one equals two, then doing the most complex math eventually somewhat relates to being able to do something very basic or understand some basic principle. It's imbued inside there. So I was like, okay, if I advance myself to the space age, I literally tried to do this. It was a thought I had. I was like, everything has to be simple to some extent. So all those like little crafts I was doing, I tried to create the most like basic point that could relate to like building something in the future that it had to be a part of it somehow. So it's like I tried to advance myself as somebody who wasn't relying upon everybody else's advancements. Like I could be something that built up towards advancement. I like did that with just like making and it just like what the result of that was like making physical objects like a black cross out of obsidian or some rings or like a machine that you know what I mean, like a circuit that does like some that lights up a light bulb or something. I like or building a computer. It's just like I was like trying to do all that stuff as much as I could, just like on my own. So, and I don't know exactly what the reason for that was, but I think it was just like so I could say that I wasn't like I could say I was advanced, like by creating something that was physical. Like I said, I just know what causes problems now. It's just like whoever wants to go down that road, like I'm not saying don't, like you can't do it on your own to create like all this weird shit that's like kind of weird and cool. And maybe your dad will even say it's cool in the in the beginning, but yeah, like maybe people will say it's kind of cool, but then they also will say like it's crazy too. So if you really want to just get it out of your system, then do your best not to hurt anybody. Base is the number one thing, because that's probably really the only reason I've been able to get out of these places is because I haven't. So, but as soon as you cross that line, you won't get out. Like that's the big line. That's the big line not to cross. Like you can kind of do this stuff, and like you'll end up in some weird places with other weird people that like makes you think differently about the world, but just don't hurt anybody. All right, was that okay? I'm gonna go. Oh, all right. All right. Well, I'll just do the campaign. I'll just be on the campaign. I'm gonna go eat. It'll probably only take me like 10 minutes, and then you can get back on whenever you get on, and I'll just be in the campaign doing it. Sound good? Okay. I'll see you in a minute, or however long.
If you started a
Hey, what's up? Oh, that was quick. Yeah, alright, well, invite me back to your party or I'll request to join, I guess. I'm already going. I could just join it. I think I'm gonna go to the gym at noon with Jeb. We're gonna do some. I don't know what we'll do. Yeah, I went this morning by myself. Oh, I'm already dressed for the gym. I'll just leave here at like 11:50. Yeah, Vasa over there with him. He has like I don't know. He says he doesn't go unless he has somebody else go with him. He says it's just he doesn't have the motivation or something. So he's like, if you go, then he's like, if you go, then I go because I don't go. He says he doesn't go with. If no one else goes with him, he doesn't go. And if I don't go with him, there's no one else that goes with him. So I'm the only one that will go with him to the gym, and that's the only reason he'll go. So he's like, "Can you go with me?" So I was like, "All right, sure." So he pays. I guess he pays for like 2 passes, but then Micah can go with him if he wants. So I guess technically it's for like him and Micah. Yeah. So I just get in for free every time I go with him. Yeah, I go to Golds. I don't go to Vasa. Like I don't have a membership at Vasa. I did for a while, but then I was just like, you know what, Golds is just easier. It's like obviously it's way closer to my house, so it's EOS now. It's not Golds anymore. It's the one that we went to in high school. It's basically the same. The gym is still the same as it's always been. I'm gonna get there and he's gonna be like, "All right, what are we working today?" And he's like, "You're the one who." He's like, "You're the one who used to do this all the time, aren't you?" I'm like, "I don't know. What do you want to work on?" That's how it starts usually. Yep. I could do that. I told him I was like, yeah, it doesn't really matter what day we do that on, as long as we space it out throughout the week and do different things. So, but yeah, we could do back and shoulders today. Or back and buys. I used to love the gym so much, dude. And just going with people and just. But now it's just hard. Even in the beginning, even. It's just not like it used to be. This is what they tell you when you do ayahuasca. JK, I don't know. And apparently everybody sees aliens. That's what they say. They're like, it's really weird because everybody that does it says they see aliens. Kendall said he wanted to. He said he was trying to. I don't know if he did or not. Maybe he already has. He said he wanted to, and he was going to go down to Costa Rica or something to do it. Because there they have, like, the shaman that, like, guide you through the, experience or whatever. Hey, just to let you know, this is the first boss. And if you're not ready, don't do this. Like, this is the first tough boss of the expansion. It's not right. It's not exactly right here, but we get up to a wall up here, and they open up another portal, and we go and we fight a boss. But like, there's a lot of death up here, especially for a hardcore character. It's just up to you. Like, can you go into like dungeons and like face a boss on your own and not die? Okay, well, we can probably do it then, but he's pretty hard. Yeah. Okay, well, if you want to do that first, then probably smart. But this is the first boss of the expansion. First time I went in here, I was like, I started fighting him, and I was like, oh, I can't kill this guy. And so I like ran over into a corner. I ran around for like until I thought he was as far away from me as he could be. And I went over to a corner and just said leave game. And it sat there and it was like counting down from 9. Yeah, it takes like 9 seconds, yeah. And he like came over and my life got down to like 10%. Hell, he was like hitting me and I barely got out. I was like, damn, I got out of that. But barely. So yeah, I've had trouble with this guy, but it's my barbarian. I did beat him with my sorcerer, but I had like 3 characters die before I even got to this part. And my barbarian, I've went in here twice thinking I can kill him, but I've lost both times because I just don't think I have the right build for the barbarian. It's like a bleed build. It's like all it is. Yeah, all it is bleed is what I'm using, but it doesn't seem to work. So I've came in here twice with him and I've escaped twice, barely. But the only person I've killed him with is that sorcerer that I have that is kind of OP. For whatever reason, I just found the right weapon. And it pushed me through all this stuff. But yeah, so I have a barbarian on hardcore too, but it can't do anything. It's just stuck. Yeah, even in Diablo 2 it was. That's why I tried to do it. Yeah. I mean, you can if you have like 2 Breath of the Dying axes in Diablo 2 and like Enigma, yeah, and like 2 Breath of the Dying axes, but it's like those have 2 Zods in it. There's no way unless you buy that you're ever going to get that. Like unless you buy that online. Seriously, I was on a Reddit post the other day, like a couple weeks ago, and they were like, "Oh, post something in the video game world that you think you found that is super rare." And there was like some guys that did like there was like WoW stuff. There was like some achievement for like Mass Effect, and then some guy was like, "I found a Zod," in on single player, and I was like, yeah, there's no way those OP barbarian builds that have two Breath of the Dying's axes, which are like 6 socket axes with like 2 Zod runes. I'm like, no one will ever get that, but that's what you need. So yeah, my barbarian just doesn't have any good weapons. He can't do anything. These are just his little clones. My barbarian really sucks. Oh, you can't hit him while his clones are out. Are you talking about his clones? Yeah, I'm not sure then. Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I haven't played Spiritborn ever. Watch out for that circle. Nice. I feel like once you get an OP character, it's kind of OP for the rest of the game. Like once you find the right weapon or something. Build. I tried figuring out what this guy was like a demigorgon of. Like a. He looked like a. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to figure out what animal he was a centaur with. You want to hear something that you probably only know if you've done it, but I'll let you know, so you know what it's like. Cutting open an animal in like the wild, the blood gets all over your hands and it will or like all over your skin, all over the place. And especially in the cold, it's really weird because like it'll freeze. The blood gets all over your hands and then it freezes. and it makes it super cold, like cutting up an animal. It'll like your hand. What? Yeah. It'll like it's just like putting your hands in water out in the whatever. But it's even worse than that because it's like the blood dries on your hands and freezes at the same time. It's like really cold. Your hands go super numb, like trying to cut up an animal. I'm not big into hunting, but just a lot of members of my family are, so it's like kind of just almost had to do it at least once. Jeb will tell you that that's the most spiritual thing you can do, other than like probably having his kid. Yeah, he's like, Jeb and Kendall are pretty like down to earth people though. I don't know. Jeb gets a lot more philosophical than Kendall does, but Jeb definitely doesn't play as much video games as the rest of us do. I don't know though. Kendall's getting a lot more like he has his own belief system now. It's not just I feel like because the last time I was talking to him, he was like telling me what he everything he thought about things, and I'm like, huh, this is interesting. Like you've never done that before. So he's like becoming his own person. It's kind of cool talking to him about. Yeah, he really is like it. I was like, God, it was interesting. He's like quiet. He's like, I'm gonna tell you what I think now. I was like, all right. I was like, what? And he went off and was telling me a bunch of stuff. I was like, interesting. He's changed so much. But he even, yeah, I know, right? He even was like, he's been hanging out with a lot of different people too, like over the course of these last 10 years or whatever. So probably, yeah, you're right. It's probably inevitable. Oh yeah, those things are a bitch. They just sit back there and throw those quills at you. All right, coming. Necromancer is the only class that I can go hardcore solo on Diablo 2 with. Yeah, it's the only class I've ever like. I have done that before, but only with the Necromancer. Just because you can sit back and spawn all your minions or whatever, you know. Like Bale, I haven't been able to do. I got close with the Barbarian, and it was like I made 2 spirits, and I was Whirlwind. I did no damage, but I wouldn't die. Like I couldn't die. And like you, I'm saying on Diablo 2, the only character I hardcore soloed the game with was a Necromancer. But I got close with the Barbarian that I had. that I made. I just kept doing Countess runs. I did like a couple hundred Countess runs, and I just farmed runes from her. And you can like not too doesn't take you too much time. Like maybe like a couple days if you just play Diablo 2 all day, you can farm enough runes from the Countess to make the Spirit rune word, which is +1 to all skills. Yeah, so you can farm that, and then I just had my Barbarian as a Whirlwind, and he had two Spirit swords, so his all of his stats were up like plus from the spirits. But that guy got pretty close to being on level solo. Yeah, Necromancer is definitely the easiest, I think. Just because you just raise everybody, and then yeah. You know what? You wanna know what you can get solo? Yeah. You wanna know what I have found solo though? Not Enigma, but there's an axe that grants you. There's an axe. I haven't gotten Enigma solo, but I have got this axe. It's called like a bearded axe, and it grants you teleport. On my barbarian, I had it. That one I was playing with. Yeah, on the axe, not you. Yeah, like the axe has like 20 charges of teleportation or something. That's the only thing that I have found before. And then maybe the highest rune I found is like a pull or something like that. I don't know. I've never found a Zod. Yeah. People still play it today. People like still stream it today, man. Just like farming runes. Remastered, yeah. Yeah. I think the only way you get more potions is by um getting more world renowned. Like if you get more world renowned, it grants you potions. Like I have 6 right now. I think the top is 8. Where's Acker at? He doesn't look a thing like Jesus, buddy. Is it talks like a gentleman or walks like a gentleman? That song. I think it's by like Franz Ferdinand. He's like, he doesn't look a thing like Jesus, but he talks like a gentleman. When you were young. Yeah, the Killers. Yeah, this is the actual, like, this is where you fight Mephisto in Diablo 2. Yeah, I don't, in all honesty, I don't think there's anything difficult right here. The next big boss that you face, if I remember correctly, is that knight. And that's as far as I've gotten. You know the guy that wears the mask, who's like the leader of the charred like knights or whatever. I think that's the next guy you face. Yeah, that's the next guy you face. It's not for a while. You go and face him, and you better be like OP by the time you face him, because he has stuff that it's like you can't dodge almost. But you still have a little bit before you get to him. I'm gonna go though, and I'll be back when I get back from the gym. Yeah.